test realm, and there's a grappling hook I found that shoots like a grapple, and I didn't really know what it did at that point. But there's a ceiling above, and I just shoot the grapple up at the ceiling, and all of a sudden it starts pulling my character in the game, right? But I'm attached to it, so I'm in it, and so I just pull. I started going up. My whole body went limp. I fell on the floor because my brain couldn't register what was happening. So I just was like, bruh. And
I paid money to see that.
No, I was freaking out after. I was like, what just happened?
Interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a special news bulletin from our partners in Twisted World.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a special news bulletin from Twisted World.
What is up, Twisted World fam? We are back. Hope everybody's Christmas was fantastic. Mine was great. We are getting ready to have some fun, getting ready to be the new year. 2022, getting ready to hit. What's up to my friends, Cody and Andy? What's going on, guys?
Yo.
What's up?
So 2022, New Year's is coming. Cody, what you doing for New Year's, bro?
I'm actually going to be in LA for New Year's. I'm going to a Charger game.
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be
Chargers
great.
and
You
Rams
and like
Stadium.
the 5 other people that are there will really enjoy that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
Sick,
I will say I'm not a Charger fan, but
Well, I mean, who is?
right. I mean, just like, I know we got to share a stadium with him and all, but just who cares? Anyway, but hopefully there is some Rams stuff I can buy there. But yeah, that's where I'll be. By the time this podcast comes out, it'll be in Charger Stadium.
Fantastic.
Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool to go to any pro game. I mean, I know it's the Chargers like lame. Who's actually playing?
The Broncos and Chargers.
Oh,
I mean, at least it's a divisional game.
game.
But, like,
Yeah.
I mean, Justin Herbert's pretty good.
Yeah, I can't deny that. I can't
He's
deny
pretty
Justin
good.
Herbert has had a fantastic year.
Yeah.
No, he has. And, you know, I mean, he's only going to get better, I believe. I'm definitely showing the prime there.
What do you got going on, Aaron?
Well, I mean, I get to hang out with a lot of great friends in Tahoe, and
A lot of great friends?
Yeah, they stand about 3 feet tall, and you know, they bring joy, and they're not, you know, as we put it last week, they're not on the naughty list, unlike their father. But
Wait, we're bringing our kids?
yes, kid trip Tahoe. The cool thing is we were looking, and for a minute there, it was like, oh, there's not gonna be any snow, and you know, it's probably gonna be in the 60s. And then a few days ago, I was like, hey, I'm gonna check again and see what the weather channel says, and it's like nonstop snow, and the highs are like 28.
I'm telling you, when I Googled it, it said that there was a lot of inches of snow during that season, and I was like, I'm gonna be prepared. I even got new tires on the van. Like,
but I know we talked about it. Remember,
yeah,
it was like,
yeah,
is it gonna snow?
yeah. Now it's
and we looked, and it
doesn't
was
it
like,
start Tuesday and like not end until after the first of the year?
like boom, dropping like it's hot, but cold instead.
Anyway,
like
it's gonna be fun.
Dropping like it's
It's gonna be fun.
It'll be fun. So, New Year's, a lot of people do a lot of crazy things. Any crazy stories from you guys? Any big New Year's in the past? I got a cool one, but I'm gonna let you guys tell me any wild, anything interesting that has ever happened to you on New Year's Eve.
No, not really.
New Year's Eve was the time when I was 16 that I texted my wife and asked her out on a date. Of course, I did it through text. So that would probably be the biggest thing that's ever happened to me on New Year's.
Mr.
That date
Cool.
did not go well, mind you.
You asked? Wait. You asked your now amazing wife out on a date through text message?
Via text.
Yeah, I mean
Really?
that's actually not a great story. I probably shouldn't have gone in with that one because we did go on a date.
Was that a new medium in the 1960s? Or
come on, 1960s?
How does that make me then? What the heck? I'm not sure how I should take that.
We did go on a date.
you couldn't afford a cell phone in the
And,
Great Depression, so
The long story short, there is it didn't go well, and I thought that I would instant message her on AOL and tell her that I didn't want to go on another date, and just
how long
wanted
did that take you?
to
Like,
be friends?
like 5 years.
Is that dial-up still?
I got online as soon as I got
Netscape.
home, and I sent it.
Netscape.
It was AOL, bro. and I actually didn't get a response from her. I just heard the door shut. You know, like the right, the noise. That
Yeah.
So I'm dating myself back to AOL. You know,
Wait,
but
did you go on the date?
I did.
On New Year's Eve?
No, we did not go on the date on New Year's Eve.
You just asked her out on
I was so when I was a teenager, I used to take all my friends and my buddies. We go to my mom's and we would do like game nights and stuff like that. And we play video games all night long.
Yeah.
Right, that was like my thing of like New Year's. So I was actually at my mom's house, and her family and my dad and stepmom and all them were at all together. And so I text her and said, "Hey, do you want to go on a date sometime?" Well, they were all together, and my dad was there. My dad picks up the phone. Like, I guess he walked into another room that night, calls me up on the phone and goes, "Was that you or was that a friend?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "They just texted Julia." I was like, "Oh, it was me." He goes, "It better have been, because if it was one of your friends, you're still going on this date." And I was like, "It was me, Dad. I did it. I text her. I want to go on a date with her."
Hey, way to go, Mike. Hey, we love you for that, man.
Mad respect.
Dude,
Listen,
that's legit.
I was just a 16-year-old kid that wanted to play video games and found my wife cute, thought she was great, but I was 16 and I was not ready for anything like really serious. And so the date went okay. I didn't think it was a great date. And luckily it worked out, years down the road where we ended up.
Your mom's probably like, I raised you. Like, Renee's probably like shaking her head.
Oh, I'm sure. I don't remember that. I do remember my mom laying it on pretty thick, especially because I think after that whole thing went down, my wife was talking to another guy. She's like, "You missed your opportunity. You missed it. It's over."
Yeah.
Like she like rubbed it in my face. So she wanted me to feel the burn. And I did. Of course I did. A few years go past and things had happened. And, we ended up going to college together. And I mean, I think it took us 20 days in our first semester of college to like become a boyfriend and girlfriend. And it wasn't long after that I knew.
Isn't that wild though, that pressing send, the decision to press send on that text message has such a huge influence on the rest of your life. It's such a big...
The ripples that happen.
Yeah, it's such a big crossroad that happened. Like, boom, the trajectory of your life has changed just infinitely.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything.
You wouldn't have this amazing wife, 3 beautiful little angels. Like, you wouldn't have had anything. None of that probably.
Yeah. And it was me that sent it. I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
It was me that sent the text message.
Oh, we're going to call your dad after this and find out.
Yeah.
Fact check.
Yeah. We're like, sir, we got a question for you.
My mom's going to be mad.
At you. Yeah.
Because I mentioned her name, but I also mentioned my dad in the same sentence.
Yeah.
So she's going to be like, "Yeah, you mentioned me, but you also mentioned your dad again." So
Listen,
I love my mom.
Renee's an amazing woman.
And she's great.
Awesome.
And we're going to dedicate this episode to her.
To Renee.
Just so
Yeah.
I get a thank you
Much
text
love to Renee.
this next week.
And we're thankful because, I mean, honestly, I think, Mike's a great guy, but I think without Renee in your life, you for sure would have been permanent naughty list. I just don't, I can't imagine.
Listen, I'm telling you, she's
probably brought a little, that's.
I'm sure I'm going to get a comment.
Like every now and then some joy comes out of Andy. You're like, oh, okay, that's Renee. Like,
listen, my love
for a little bit of funniness comes out, and that's Mike. Like,
my love for Thanksgiving comes from Renee.
Yeah.
She's the reason I love it, because she was like a football person, and we did Thanksgiving. My birthday was after that. Like, so everything around Thanksgiving and why I love it so much came from her.
Yeah.
But does she love Christmas?
She does. But I think Thanksgiving's her favorite too.
You hear that? She does.
She does. Like, I'm if I'm being honest, and I'm going to make a judgment call, I'm going to say she likes Thanksgiving more.
Yeah.
Now, she may have liked Christmas because
of
us, right?
Yeah.
Because again, my love for Christmas now comes from my kids. But I'm going to say, if I had to pick a day right now, I think Thanksgiving's her holiday. That's the one that she cares most about.
When she listened to last week's episode, I wonder, does she know your distaste towards Christmas?
No, I don't know that.
I don't want to get back on the horse.
I know we've got another podcast to talk about.
Yeah, we got stuff to talk about.
No, but I don't know that I don't think anybody really knows, right? And it's not like I'm a bah humbug where I'm walking around in black on Christmas, right?
I just want to know one thing. Did the 3 ghosts come visit?
Ghosts aren't real.
They're eventually going to come, bro. And you're going to be like Ebenezer and being like,
wait, ghosts aren't real?
Okay.
I didn't get abducted. So
we're not.
It's still out. The theory is still out on Santa being an alien.
Anyway, Happy New Year. It's not quite New Year's Eve yet. I just wanted to do a little touch on one of my coolest New Year's Eve stories just real fast, and then we're going to get into our topic here. 1999, everybody thought the whole world was going to shut down. I was a teenager, and it was like everybody was watching the clock. Like
Y2K, right?
Y2K. It was the coolest thing ever. It's like, I mean, you couldn't believe how many people were like, we like to talk about mysteries and myths and legends and conspiracy theories. Like, we talk about this stuff. That was legit. I lived one. Everybody I knew was watching their clock and was like, is this world going to shut down? Is the power going to go off? Like, because everything was run by computers by this point. So everybody was like, the world is going to shut down the second it strikes midnight. So everybody was like, you could see this tension, and everybody's like, and then it didn't happen. It was the most anticlimactic thing ever.
Yeah, and then I heard all the arguments that, well, actually, for it to be the year 2000, it has to complete. So it's actually going to happen on the year 2001, not 2000. And I was like, y'all are crazy.
And the hype was already destroyed by then, so no one really cared.
Listen,
I was done. It was done.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so dumb. So yeah, nothing ever happened for those of you that did not live through the Y2K experience like Cody. But those of you that did, you'll remember nothing ever happened. Nothing ever shut down. No power grids failed. It was still all normal. It's normal every day, right? Great New Year's. But anyways, Happy New Year. Today's topic is going to be a fun one. A little over a week ago, the new Matrix movie dropped in the theaters and on HBO Max. If you hadn't checked it out. And we all enjoy the Matrix movie. I'm a huge Matrix buff. Watched the first one. I can't even tell you how many times in the theater when it first came out. It is thought-provoking, intriguing. But our discussion today, our topic is the Matrix real? Are we living in some form of a construct of some massive computer controlling our brain?
A simulation.
A simulation, right? Is anything that you see, smell, taste, touch, is your best friend, your spouse sitting next to you, are they even sitting there? Right?
No, they're in a bowl of jelly with the thing plugged in the back of their neck. Yeah.
Right?
Primordial goo.
So I want to, this is not going to be a whole lot of people, but for those of you guys that haven't seen The Matrix, I'm just going to really try to sum this up real fast. At least just Matrix 1. That's the one. If you want to see the background to The Matrix, that's the one you want to watch. The other ones are really great too. Love all three. And now the new one. But that first one sets the stage, right? So you got this hacker guy. He's living in the world. He's living two lives, living a normal like salary Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then he's got this hacker thing going on the back end. And he's doing his thing. And then he meets this guy named Morpheus. And Morpheus comes and he's like, hey, by the way, nothing you see, taste, touch, smell is real. He's like, what? So he says, listen, I'm going to give you an opportunity, right? Two choices, right? The whole two pill, for those of you guys that have probably heard or seen memes, red pill, blue pill. And he says, hey, take the red pill and I'll go deeper down the rabbit hole. I'm going to show you the real world. Nothing what you see is real. Or you take the blue pill, go back to your chill life and just keep doing what you're doing, right? And you'll never remember any of it. Okay, right? Basic premise. Don't need to go any deeper than that. It's going to set the stage. So the question is, the thought that we are living in the Matrix, is it far-fetched?
That what we're experiencing right now.
Right this minute. Like, are we really sitting here having this discussion?
I guess, Mike. Okay. I'm feeling something powerful coming from Cody.
No, I mean, it's not powerful. It's not far-fetched. Really not. Because with the same amount of evidence you could say it is, you can easily say that it's not. Because the whole point is that you would feel that way, or you would say that. Right. You know what I mean? You would say, no, this is real because I can feel this. Well, at the same time, you could say, well, you feel that because you're in the simulation. It can be answered that same way. So, no, I don't think it's far-fetched at all. I think that living in the Matrix is an absolute plausibility.
I just think, okay, so when we talk about, is this really happening? It's the physical, because you can have a conversation and like, if the idea is that we're living in a simulation, when he came out, it was still Neo.
Yeah.
He looked a little different, was a little scruffy, had a little hole in the back of his neck, but he was still Neo, and Trinity still knew who he was, but the world looked completely different. So are we having the physical conversation of this happening? Because they still technically had the conversation. He took the red pill.
Well, but
it's metaphoric.
Just so we know, and we don't want to get too deeper into the movie itself, but Trinity was plugged in to go meet him. But think about all the people, like his work people, like he worked with 9 to 5. He never sees them again. So were they even really there? I mean, they were there, but they're plugged into some bubble elsewhere.
Are they NPCs?
So,
is that what you're saying?
Or who knows?
Right.
So, I mean, I definitely believe that we are three real individuals, but are we really sitting here physically in this room having a conversation? I mean, to me, it seems a little far-fetched. I mean, it seems crazy.
Yeah, I think you would. There'd be things. I don't know.
Maybe like some proof or something.
There'd be
right?
something. I don't know, like birds on
Yeah.
power lines
Or who knows?
and
Right.
other things.
So,
A glitch of some sort,
a glitch,
right?
right?
Like as a guy
have
that
you-
works in IT, like glitches are a thing, and
One
if
of-
you're not aware, like that's why we have job security, is because nothing ever goes perfect when it comes to
Right,
software.
But we're talking about some massive supercomputer. But hey, real quick, one of the coolest things in the movie, and I do want to touch on this one because I've had them and I've always tried to figure it out, like Deja Vu.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Have you had Deja Vu?
Yep.
Don't you find it like it's like what the heck? Like it was detailed, like words, and we're talking like I had it way before it happened. Like I don't, it was.
I've had deja vu, and most of mine is like fragmented, if anything. Like you're thinking
Yeah.
about it, you're like, God, this feels really familiar. And
Really
you're like,
familiar,
did
yeah.
I have a dream about this? Did something like. So, yes. And I always find it odd. I mean, we do live, for the most part, very repetitive lives, most of us, right? We get up, we go to work, we do things. So it's not uncommon for us to have an interaction that we've had before with our wife, spouse, friends, someone you've seen at a gas station because you walked and seen that person before. I would say our minds tend to do that when we don't have immersive conversation, right?
Yeah.
So if I see someone, a guy at the cash register at the gas station, I go in there and I get energy drinks all the time. I see that guy all the time. I don't know who he is. I've never really interacted more than thank you. I'll take a bag, please. I would say that those types of people can often trigger deja vu more often than not because you've not really ever had a deep conversation with them, and the likelihood of you remembering a conversation with them is faint.
So you're not thinking it's a glitch.
I'm not thinking it's a glitch, right?
Well-
But I would say that it's probably more subconscious of you remembering a version of them that you don't really and not had much deep. It's all shallow. It's surface level.
So here is how, I don't know if you guys actually know how, like, what the science of a deja vu is. But here's how I know it to be. Like, here's what I've seen. So when deja vu occurs, you're usually living that memory. You're usually like living it as it's coming
Right.
to you right now.
Right.
You're like, oh, okay, here's like, let's say like someone handed you some money at the cash register, right? And you go, oh, I swore this has happened before. So what's actually happening is your brain's misfire. What's going on is the electrical signal meant to go into what you're perceiving right now actually misfires and goes into your memory. So you think it's a memory, but it's actually just now happened. So but there's no way for you to interpret that any different way because your brain's misfired it and put it in the wrong category, basically.
But how do they know that? I mean, what's the science? Maybe I missed that when you were talking, but what's the science that they were able to somehow prove that, or is that a theory?
No, that's how scientists have told you that's what happens during deja vu. I don't know I don't have an article for you, but but that's
Sounds
how
like,
scientists have. It sounds like Bologna.
Well, I mean,
It sounds a little bit Bologna, but here's the deal. I mean, just to clear things up, I know we want to be clear. Yeah, that's our word now. It's in one of the openers, so we got to use it. I want to be clear. I believe that the Matrix is not a real thing, and so I'm going to argue kind of against it. But if I was going to argue on the counter of that, because I like to play devil's advocate a lot, I mean, it sounds like the scientists would be playing in on this a little bit.
So here's
they could be. I mean, they could be playing both sides. Either you could be saying like, oh yeah, they're defending it by saying, oh yeah, that's just something that happens with your brain, or they're not, and they're trying to be like, oh yeah, like this is just like a glitch.
It's a machine that was created, and oftentimes machines have software built in to protect itself from vulnerabilities.
right.
In a sense, a deja vu would be seen as a vulnerability. So if that is the case, wouldn't it make sense that the NPCs or the code that we see as scientists would argue against it? Now, again, I think this is weird because I'm arguing the counter, but I think that there's an argument to be made that in
Well, but
itself,
he's just saying that the brain, that these scientists are saying that the brain just dumps it into like
Are
into
they?
the back memory, subconscious type thing, and it's just a mechanism of the brain.
Yeah.
They're not over here saying that we're plugged into computers or anything.
no, but they're just listen. When you try to get someone off of the point, you don't talk about the point. You push them you nudge them off of it so that we never get to the conversation.
Well,
of the
you
point.
veer them. You veer them so it doesn't look like you're trying to be deceptive.
Right.
Right. You don't want to just straight up go, so you want to talk about deja vu. How about the sky's blue? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not going to. But the one thing that my stance here is I definitely think it's feasible, but I also think that even if hypothetically right this minute we're not living in it, I think it's and I want to bring up some information and research that I've done that I believe that if hypothetically we're not already in it, but it's possible that if we're not already, we could be going. Like we could be our creation that as man, as we keep creating deeper and deeper into AIs and different things like that nature, that the fact of the matter is we could be creating something that will eventually take over, right? The creation.
Yeah, see,
takes
I'm more
over.
of a
The creation
believer of
becomes the
the
creator.
Terminator and Skynet than I am of this, like,
Well, I mean, either
Matrix
way.
being created and passively using us as a farm.
Well, let's look at the world today. Okay. 20 years ago, you had the Benjamins in your pocket. You know, you had some coin.
I didn't.
You made. But
Benjamins?
Benjamins? The Benjamins?
Not 20 years ago.
You had the Abes.
I was like, hey, look, I got a couple bucks.
Yeah, I got the Georges. I got the George. What's up, man?
Counting change.
So now we got cryptocurrency. Okay, so everybody knows what crypto is nowadays. You know, all the different ones out there: Bitcoin, Shiba, your Doges, all these different things. It's a digital traded, right?
Right. I don't think everybody does know, but it's very popular right now, and I think that it ties into this really well. So it just,
I think it's taking more popularity than the stock market. It's like.
Yeah, the only reason we're not trading on it yet is because of the volatility, right? And the idea that it doesn't have a stability to it. And that, for instance, if a car company decides to sell or accept Bitcoin as profit, or like, I'm going to sell a Tesla. I want 30 Bitcoins.
Right.
And then tomorrow, and my Bitcoins, let's say I take a one Bitcoin and Bitcoin's worth $30,000. And tomorrow it changes from $30,000 to $10,000. That company loses $10,000 right off the top.
Right.
Day two.
Yeah.
So that because of that volatility,
there's no fix.
There's a big problem there. I think because of I don't want to say conspiracies, but because of the doubt in the mind of people nowadays.
Yeah.
I think that this solves a problem in trust, right? When you make a transaction on a card, it goes down this long rabbit hole, and there's all these verifications that happen before it actually ends up in your bank.
Right.
Well, Bitcoin is a point to point. For instance, if I want to send you and you're in Africa and I'm in the United States, I just send it to your wallet directly. There is no in between, no middleman, and it's fast.
Right.
And so I think and it's all digital. Like some countries don't have banks. They don't have places they can put their money. This allows them to store their money digitally.
And that's the point. Like all these different digital things and you two have talked more about this next one. I only just started researching it because you guys, these NFTs, right? They're starting to take off themselves, right? And it's my understanding that it's a one of a kind coin currency of some sort, right?
Yeah, it's its own like it's art. You know what I mean? It's art that has its own type of like digital signature that makes it unique, and it can be some of them can be randomly generated and be more rare than others in a certain pack. So they can be one of one, and their value is sometimes inherent, sometimes it comes after it's been made already. So
instead of putting like the Mona Lisa on my wall for but some Van Gogh painting or something that cost me $1 million on my wall, and I look at it every day, it's just some.
It is very similar.
Piece of art.
Actually, think of it in the same way, right?
Yeah.
You can replicate that. So, for instance, what people are like, why can't I just take a screenshot, right? Replicas of the Mona Lisa are essentially screenshots, but there is only one Mona Lisa.
There's only one original.
There's only one stroke. There's only one aged to that. I mean, there are good copies, but there's only one.
And that's
when it comes to NFTs, it's non-fungible, fungible. It means that it cannot be replicated. It's unique. And so it's unique in its code, right? It has code, it has signifiers, it has those types of things inside the image that does that. Now, think of it this way. I was talking about this the other day. Guys our age are trading Pokemon cards and sports cards right now, and they're spending all this money. But the generation that comes after us will be doing this all in digital, right? Video games like Roblox and Fortnite and Call of Duty all are starting to do these NFTs because they're collectibles in the game, and those collectibles will have real world value outside of the game because of the tie back and forth.
And that's really my point. Like we can go into augmented reality, which is for those of you that don't know, what was that one that came out 8 years ago? Like Pokemon Go, right?
Yeah.
So you don't definitely see the Pokemon in front of
Virtual
you. Virtual
items in a real world
right?
setting.
So you all of a sudden you hold your phone up and it's right there. So that's augmented reality. Virtual reality is when you're actually fully immersed in this virtual world. I've played with the Oculus some, and I'm just gonna keep it real. It was crazy. Like you put the headphones on, you put this headset on, and everything around you is gone. Like I was riding this roller coaster, and my brain just naturally went with the turn. Like I was like, that just happened. I did not go with it. My body went with it.
those VRs are a trip. Okay,
Yeah.
I have a Vive, and I was playing it, and I'm playing for a few hours. I'm playing, messing around with it. There's a couple little like workshop things you could do. You can go on, you get little gizmos and stuff you can touch and interact with inside of it and everything. So I'm inside the VR, this little test realm, and there's a grappling hook I found that shoots like a grapple, and I didn't really know what it did at that point. But there's a ceiling above, and I just shoot the grapple up at the ceiling, and all of a sudden it starts pulling my character in the game, right? But I'm attached to it, so I'm in it, and so I just pull. I started going up. My whole body went limp. I fell on the floor because my brain couldn't register what was happening. So I just was like, bruh. And I just,
I paid money to see that.
No, I was freaking out after. I was like, what just happened? Like, well, I recovered.
Dude,
I fell. Like, and I had to catch myself with my hand or whatever. I was like, whoa. Like, I had to take off the headset for a minute and like readjust because I was like, my eyes like went, just cross-eyed for a minute. I was like, what happened? My brain took a screenshot, dude. It was just.
And exactly. And that's, we're gonna dive a little bit more into virtual reality here in a minute, because that point exactly, just like my roller coaster story, your story with this grappling hook is the exact of why we can lean towards saying that it's very feasible that the Matrix exists. Because when you put on virtual reality, just to touch on it real before we get into it deeper a little later, is that you put this virtual reality on, the sounds and everything, your brain is being told by this computer that you're wearing, this headset and these headphones, what is going on, even though you never leave the spot right in front of you. Like I said, I think I rode a 1,000-foot roller coaster, and I felt it. Like I felt it, but I didn't. And that's really where it starts to get a little super crazy. Then a few other things again about our digital world. Then we got blockchain tech, right? A little bit, if you don't know what blockchain is, it's like a system of ledger records that make it, it's been put literally impossible to hack. And so it's the backing of cryptocurrencies and NFTs and the virtual world. Again, we'll get into that a little bit more deeper, but that's kind of what basis of blockchain is. And then you got the metaverse. The metaverse is like bringing all these things and then some, which I'll talk a little bit more, but the metaverse brings all these things into a digital living world, from your currency, to your virtual reality world. So
we're seeing real estate, like actual property sold in the metaverse.
Right.
Like we're seeing that. Like I was talking to my dad. He's in real estate. Like, are you buying property? So I think he's in the process of like looking at it, because it's actually a space that there's a company that's legit out there becoming a real estate company for the metaverse.
I believe it. This is really interesting, and I like how it's really mainstream now, because this has happened before. This isn't the first time people have bought real estate on video games.
No, there was the Pops 2011, 2017, but you've seen this in other games over the years.
This has happened way back in the mid 2000s.
It just wasn't tied to blockchain or NFT.
Right. And no, it wasn't. It was tied to like actual like PayPal and stuff like that. Just actual
but
money.
These aren't even games anymore.
Yeah.
We're not. This is a whole.
It's another reality. It's
reality.
another dimension.
So like we live here on planet Earth in the United States. Okay. We live here in California, the three of us. We can go buy a house, and here in California, you buy a 15 square foot home on a quarter acre, blah, 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 right? We pay X amount of dollars for it. We can touch it. We can live in it. We can smell it. We can everything, right? That's tangible. There are now these virtual worlds, much like Earth, much like or country like the United States. Like, for instance, and I don't want to butcher this name. I think it's Decentraland.
Decentraland. Yeah.
Decentraland, operated by Ethereum. And bare minimum piece of property, a parcel piece of property is $10,000. And
it's only like 2.5 Ethereum.
Right. So it was funny. So I'm talking to my wife. She's like, wait a second. So people are buying fake land? And I said, but is it fake? Is it fake? Is it? And she's looking at it, it's just a thought, right? You're just buying a thought, but they're not.
What is real?
Exactly. What is real? This land.
I'm telling you, it's intergalactic demons. Yeah. I swear. They're coming in here. They're making fake land and they're selling it back to us so we can work and make the slave labor.
Right.
Okay.
So it's some mass computer sitting in and I'm going to use this as probably as inaccurate, but just to give you guys a depiction of really what's kind of going on here. And granted, it's probably much different than this, and network rooms are generally very large, but let's just picture a room, 10 by 10 room with a computer sitting in the middle of a room on a desk. This computer running Decentraland, and it has millions and millions of acres of parcel built into this computer, and people are paying $10,000 per parcel minimum. There were some that were 20, 30,000. I know there's a few other these different lands like Axie Infinity and Sandbox, and then this new one coming, but for all different prices. I mean, I literally seen one for like $50,000. Like, what? And so this computer's running, telling people this land exists, right? It's this computer system. Now, granted, I know like a lot of people are like, well, you buy this land and maybe somebody comes and takes it from you, or hackers again, that's back to the blockchain thing, right? The whole point of blockchain is to prevent any of this stuff, whether it be the cryptocurrency, the NFTs, this land, from anybody altering, taking, hacking.
Well, the premise of the blockchain isn't necessarily that. It is more decentralization, meaning that we're taking it out to where no one regulates one thing.
Right.
And that the uniqueness of the non-fungible, right? We're talking about NFTs. These pieces of land, I believe, are classified as NFTs. They're actually NFTs where they're unique. They have a unique identifier that ties to your wallet and your wallet address. And the only person that can allow, the only thing that is protecting your piece is your password.
Well,
because right now people are getting hacked, right? If you don't have a good password, you get hacked, you can lose your stuff. But over time, that technology will get stronger. And again, it's not being regulated or anything by anyone. So there is a lot of privacy and a lot of like people applying the money right now, which is why it's going up so high. But this is an untapped potential market, which is why we're seeing this.
Well, and you see like Network, the new one that's coming.
Netzwerk?
Right?
Is that like a German?
I'm not really sure how you pronounce it.
Thing? Netwerk.
But it's getting ready to launch. It claims, so when you buy these digital lands, it's just like a grid, right? You see this grid and you buy this land. Like I tried to walk through the process without paying for anything, and I saw it was like, but they are claiming like you're gonna buy, like if you were to walk down the street and buy a piece of land and build a house on it, they're claiming that's how their land is gonna be sold, like their parcel. They say that you will be able to buy this parcel and then build on it like a house and custom environments, and so that's their thing. Now, granted, there's another thing that already just came out at the beginning of December, I believe, which we'll talk about here in a second. But the crazy thing is, with the lockdowns that have transpired over the last couple of years, I mean, they clocked in millions, like hundreds of millions of hours are spent in virtual worlds.
Oh, don't be fooled. The Meta timing, as far as the announcement from Facebook on Meta, was well timed. They're no idiots, right?
No, yeah,
marketing geniuses. See, they knew exactly what they're doing. Now they were working on this for years.
Yeah,
and the technology has gotten better over the years as well. But the idea of virtual reality is not new. It's not. It's always been expensive.
Right.
Now you're seeing things like Oculuses that are $199 or $200. People could do this from their house.
3 or 4, but yeah.
Well, I saw the cheapest one's $199.
Yeah,
you can buy $199 standalone system. Mind you, I think Cody spent like $800 on his at the time.
Yeah,
and you had to have a really bomb computer to run it.
That one's good.
Right?
It's the best.
You now run this thing, and I can sit in my living room on my couch and do it all day. Right? So they're making this cheaper with the intentions of pulling people in. And we're Ready Player One, bro.
So this is where it gets really wild. Okay, so you got the meta, like you're talking about meta, right? And then going into the metaverse, of course, there is a virtual reality simulator called Horizon World. It is now launched. It is live. It is active. So this world, you go in, you put your virtual reality, like Cody and I were talking about the graphic, right? You put your virtual reality headset on, put your earphones in. You are no longer in the real world. Your brain now sees this fully 3D, 4D dimensional world that you are now in, and you're walking around, interacting with other people. You're buying things, you're building things as if you're in this real world. I mean, this thing is so immersive. I mean, I watched some demos, I watched some YouTube videos, and then I was like, dude, this is crazy. This is where it gets crazier. So they launched it for beta. Okay. They launched the beta. Woman signs up to do the beta. She's doing the beta in this world, walking around in this fully immersive world, feeling what her brain tells her to feel, hearing what her brain tells her to hear. Like, it's, as far as she's concerned, she's in it. Right? In fact, everybody that's kind of described it says it feels 100% real. Walking around, boom, boom, boom. And the guy walks by in Horizon World and gropes. Feels her up. she gets out of the beta, and she was quoted as saying, "Not only was I groped last night, but there were other people there who supported the behavior, which made me feel isolated." The After the review, this is what the company said, stated that she could have used the safety tool, right? Apparently this tool is some like you engage it and it puts a bubble around you, and then you can't and nobody can interact with you at all. Okay. So she's trying to experience the beta for everything that it is. This guy comes up and gropes her. And keeping in mind, yes, physically, right here, if the earth is real, the world is real, Matrix doesn't exist, she's walking around in this horizon world. Yes, she's in a virtual world. But again, her brain fully immersed into this experience.
Her being. That's all you are. Your
just like you in the grappling hook.
Exactly.
You fell because your brain told you were being pulled to the
I was
ceiling.
in there. Yeah.
I moved with this roller coaster because my brain told me I was with this roller coaster. Her brain told her she just got groped.
Everything that is you.
I don't know. Like, okay. Hey, close your eyes.
Okay.
Neither of you have those reactions while doing the virtual reality. So I have a hard time somebody walking up and rubbing someone's leg or groping someone.
You're
somehow
right.
they feel that. It's all motion. Both of the things you're talking about are heavily motion driven, like inertia, right? So if I'm going up and I walk up and I slap someone, you're not going to feel being slapped.
No. That's not what she's saying. But she...
You mean emotionally?
This is more of like
a
mentally, like
I know,
a mental assault kind of thing.
Right.
Because you're showing somebody, hey, look what I'm doing to you. Like, this is you because you are there. Yeah. It's like, hey, and they have no control over what they do to
no,
you. So they
hear you. I hear you.
It could be mental trauma.
Hey, listen. I mean, at the end of the day, they're basically just stating that it was her fault, first and foremost, because she didn't put on this bubble. I just want to put that part out there.
I don't know that I would call it her fault, but
that's their statement.
Essentially, right now, until it becomes more, it's a video game, and we teabag people in video games now.
But in a video game, you see a screen in front of you. You can. We play video games, and we could be in a open world video game where it's fully like, hey, we're traveling, and yeah, that stuff happens. But you look around, and your brain still tells you you're sitting in your living room. Once you engulf yourself in this virtual reality world, especially these ones that are a lot better, like Cody's. I mean, I read some of the reviews on that one. These top level virtual realities, and the better they get, and the better these worlds get. Because another thing, this Horizon world, they're putting into it is AI, right? So that it can change itself, right? So we'll dip into that a little bit. But my question is what deciphers this real feeling virtual world from what we believe to be the real world, unless just simply taking off our headset and closing our eyes, or what?
I think until we see
what tells our brain it's different.
Again, I think
if you spend 20 hours a day,
pretty naive.
If you spend 20 hours a day in this virtual world, I'm just curious. At what point does your brain start to believe what you're in?
I think that you would be pretty naive to believe that it was real. Here, the reason is because the technology of the graphical component to it, right?
Yeah.
When you can watch like NBA 2K and you're like, man, that looks just like Steph Curry. Like that's real. Like I remember my dad walking in and I was playing a football game once and he's like, what game you watching? Right? When you jump on VR, it does not look like that yet. So I think that when we see things like the Metaverse announcement and he shows like holographs of real people, I think at that point, it can trick you enough to where your brain can process what's happening as real because what you're seeing is what you've experienced.
So I think an individual like you who's very open-minded and is connected to real life, true. But let me give you a piece. Okay. I think human beings, especially Americans, have been slowly desensitized from the real world for some time now. How many memes do you see of people sitting at the dinner table buried in their cell phone, not having conversations, they're buried in their phone? It is only a matter of time for everybody sitting at a dinner table with a virtual reality helmet to eat that food in virtual reality instead of the sitting there at the dinner table.
Okay, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of work that has to go into that. But at the end of the day, going back to the original premise of the idea of the simulation in the Matrix, right? Is the simulation in the Matrix, when he got out, Neo still looked like Neo.
You're right.
Trinity still looked like Trinity. Now, they look run down, and they came out of a ball of goo, but at the end of the day, they still represented what a human looks like. That
But you're
their
also
taste
talking-
and sensories, all their sensories were different.
But you're talking about if we're going to talk about the Matrix, we're talking about a way advancement. When he's inside the Matrix, he's in the late 90s, early 2000s. When he comes out, he's in the 26th century.
But he still looks the same.
Sure, because the computer system is far more advanced, so that it's able to plug into him. So here's the end of the day.
That's my argument.
Our argument is, how do we know that this isn't already what it is?
Well, but
We're seeing technology unfold in front of us here in 2021.
100%. But you asked me if we were wearing a helmet 20 hours a day, how would we know? We would know because of where the technology is right now.
But it's advancing, right?
Yeah, and I think
it's
when you
crazily
spend
advancing.
yeah, and when you spend so long, like your primary reality will maybe become the secondary reality. When you're spending more of the time in the secondary one, it becomes your primary.
We're talking
reality.
Inception. If this is real,
I mean,
right?
hey,
By the way, we're like.
Well, this is 2 layers deep. We're already in a simulation, and now we're going to be taking on the metaverse. So we're 2 layers deep.
So what if someone
more.
creates a metaverse inside the metaverse?
No,
Yeah, then you're 3 layers deep.
You're 3 layers deep. But hold on, Inception, right? But what about this? Just check this out.
That's
for
not
a
what
minute.
Inception means, but go ahead.
Listen, hold on. Let's just check this out for a
The
minute.
dream, but it could be the same thing.
No, it's not the same thing. I'll get it.
First, majority of Americans, their jobs were in offices. Now they work from home. Then Zoom meetings became like this big thing. Zoom launched up. Zoom, right? Sounds like But anyways, next, and they're actually, I shouldn't even say next, they're already doing it, because I saw on the Horizon World where there are companies where everybody works from home and they go into the meetings in virtual reality. I'm just saying, it is slowly transitioning. They started with the cell phones, and everybody's buried in the cell phones, and then augmented reality comes, and then now you've got the lockdowns. Everybody stay home. Everybody come on Zoom meetings. And now next thing you know, all these employers are going to start providing virtual reality helmets. Like, oh, send it to your house, virtual reality. This is for work only. Boom, boom, boom. You jump on the meeting in virtual reality. You jump in production meetings and things like that in virtual reality. And then everything just becomes this level of virtual reality.
Your work, play, relaxation becomes virtual reality.
Everything becomes virtual reality.
And then pretty soon, like sometimes, right now, the immersion of the helmet and the controls doesn't really help, but we'll move away from that. It'll just be a room, and it'll be, a moving floor, so that everything just looks real.
We're already taking the steps because Facebook's already working on the glove, right?
Yeah.
That was my thing.
To be able to feel.
You got to have the touch sensors. You got to have the ability, because when
it's
like
coming.
I played it and you hit these buttons and I'm like, this is cool and all as a game, but it doesn't feel like I'm really playing the game because I'm not actually reaching down and grabbing, right?
So
if you spend enough time in there, it feels a lot more realistic than it does face value.
And I got to be honest, I've not had a lot of experience playing.
Dude, play that thing for a few hours. You will be like,
bro,
you'll be,
I played it for
that's not how I move my hands.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
The reality is, the Matrix, though, points to a fact that everything you feel, smell, and see is because the brain tells you feel it, you smell it, and you see it. You prick your finger, and the prime example there are people that their brain doesn't tell them when they feel pain. So they can actually, and this is a real life thing, they can put their hand on a hot burner and not feel the pain because their brain doesn't have that receptor in it.
Yeah.
Another thing is, and Cody and I were talking about this a little bit, schizophrenic. Schizophrenics see real life people sitting there. They see real life things happening
That
as
to
far
us
as they're concerned
are not happening. Yeah.
because their brain tells them it's happening. The reality is the brain controls everything. So if something can tap into your brain and control it, which this is our next thing, because Andy's talked about this a little bit. We just kind of bounce this off. It's kind of a little fun adage. There's a little bit of a conspiracy theory out there that the vaccines actually have nanobots.
This came from my dad.
I thought it was cool.
He texts me,
but I
and
looked
he's
it
like,
up. There's a lot of people believe it.
It's real, right? Like the idea that the vaccines is how they got these nanobots or whatever. Maybe it's not nanobots. Maybe it was something else. And that the Facebook shutdown, like the Facebook shutdown, the
was
WhatsApp,
to reboot their new system.
Was to reboot and turn on the, what do they call it? The control, like the ability for Facebook to go, hey, by the way, anybody that got the vaccine, you now can control yourselves. You can go into the metaverse and you can just use your own body as.
So what if one day they flip this switch and these nanobots are already in the brains of a majority of human beings? Just saying, they flip this switch. These nanobots are already in there. Because we know Wi-Fi and Bluetooth has been around for a long time. Who knows how advanced that truly is behind the scenes? They flip some switch, and there's this signal that gets sent out.
The 5G
and
signal,
now
bro.
They control. You're right.
Yeah, dude.
All the 5G towers that be flying up. And now they control every thought, feeling, and everything else. And I'm going to piggyback because a top world thinker, Nick Bostrom, from a philosopher at Oxford, and I'm going to read this to all of our listeners, so it's probably going to sound scripted for a minute. I apologize, but I just want to read this in detail because I don't want to misquote this or anything. So he wrote a paper in 2001 that suggested that a supercomputer with a mass on the order of a planet would be capable of running a humanity-sized scale simulation. He had not seen the Matrix before when he wrote this paper. He said that it could do 10 to the 42nd power calculations per second, simulating entire histories of humankind, including memories, thoughts, and feelings. Everything would be just blips of data. And he said that humanity could have or could destroy itself with its own creation. So thinking again, if these nanobots are real, the virtual realities, the metaverse, like all this stuff we're creating, the metaverse is going to have its own AI, backed and protected by blockchain. It's very feasible that we create something, or already have, that is basically controlling humanity. Because it already is. Even if you don't believe in the Matrix, people walking around like zombies with their cell phones in their faces, it's already been controlling humanity. Humanity has been already controlled for the last decade. It is only just progressive, right? You have Rizwan Virk, a computer science, who believes we are living in a large multiplayer video game.
Ready Player One,
right? Which is that's a great movie, by the way.
ESO.
If you haven't watched
If you guys have not seen ESO, it's an anime. Shout out to all my anime fans out there. ESO, fantastic anime.
Yes.
Great example of what we're talking about, though.
100%.
And I would love to see that come down.
I have not seen it.
If it already
so I'll have to go watch it. No.
Oh, check it out.
Oh, wait. Is it ESO?
No, yeah, it's
Sword Art Online. ESO's Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah,
What the heck? Same online thing. Sword Art Online.
Sword Art Online. Okay.
SAO.
SAO.
SAO. Sword Art Online. There's 2 seasons. There's 2 kind of series, but yeah.
Highly recommended.
Yeah.
And again, so this Rizwan Quirk, this major computer scientist, says his belief we are living a multiplayer game. So here's 2 guys that are like, fairly smart individuals. And then you have a group of physicists who try to address the question by studying cosmic rays, right? So these dudes are like, hey, again, I want to read this because it's some really in-depth information that probably goes way over my head, but I read it like a multitude of times last night and then did a little back research on it to just make sure that this sounds right. So the physicists simulate space and the subatomic particles in it using coordinates on a grid. So the nuclear physicist Silas Bean and some of his colleagues suggested in a 2014 paper that perhaps the mass simulation we could be living in. Okay, so he basically states the mass simulation we could be living in would use the same coordinate system. Okay, so the same coordinate system that they use with these particles, subatomic particles. Their logic was that if certain particles, like the high energy cosmic rays, always exhibit a maximum energy level, which, by the way, turns out they do, then the constraints on their behavior could be due to the simulation's underlying grid.
Dumb that down for me.
So basically, and that's why I had to do that, right? I had to go research it.
Dumb it down for me. Get to the point.
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
That's what I'm going to do. I wanted to read it first because that's why I said let me read it first.
Yeah.
So basically, they take this grid and they study the cosmic rays, right? And they study the subatomic particles within the cosmic rays, and they see this grid, right? And they go, okay, there's patterns, right? And so these certain patterns are only laid out in certain ways, right? And normally they're very random and very this, but when they started studying them, or they should be, according to science, they should be all over the place. And so they laid out this grid and they go, okay, well, they're not. They're very systematic, right? And so
they think that's somehow proof that we're in some kind of simulation?
They said it would explain that there is a grid behind it already controlling it. So when you think grid, you got to think mainframe, right? And that's what they're stating, that even like when we go to space and study stuff, actually go into space and study.
Sounds like they don't have the proof. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like
Well,
a theory, which is what scientists are. They're
You're
just guys that are out there theorizing everything and then
Well, yeah, it's a theory. I mean, they didn't just prove simulation.
well,
If they could, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about it on our show. It would
the
be like,
argument, though,
physical
is
fact
that
is-
is proof that there could be something there.
That's a theory, actually.
and here's the thing: if
When they say that, what he just said to me is that they are saying that is in itself could be proof.
It would explain
proof.
it.
of course,
But explain it.
Yeah.
no, and that's the point. Is it's all theory. It's theory. But that's what we're discussing. There's mysteries and stuff behind this, and there's a theory here. But the reality is just like Cody said in the beginning. Is though it can very well not be real. I'm just trying to connect the dots that it could. Reality is we're in 2021, and they're showing evidence of it going to a very feasible way. They're starting to give highly intelligent AI to computer systems that control virtual worlds where millions of people will be plugged in every day, all day, being told what to do. And if hypothetically, the small chance that the vaccine does have some nanobots in it will flip a switch, and now you are connected all day, every day, hardwired, just like your phone is.
So wait, would there be an unvaccinated resistance?
Well, there would be.
Mm.
Right? Because they flip the switch, and
I mean, would Morpheus?
does that mean they
Morpheus be an unvaccinated resistant leader?
What was the world where Morpheus? What was the land where because there's people that were unplugged? Remember? Zion,
the last
Zion?
city.
Yeah.
So yeah, we would have to create our own Zion, right?
Yeah.
Those of us that aren't vaxxed out there, I'm sure they probably come for us quickly.
Well,
anybody
yeah,
out there that's not
they
vaxxed,
seek you out in those
if this
little
is-
octopi.
oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
So everybody would have to get underground quick. If you're not vaccinated and the nanobots are real, you know what to do.
Sentinels
But-
are coming for you.
Well, right, because we wouldn't be able to go into the metaverse unless we had some way of going into the metaverse.
Right. And this little quote right here. There always remains the possibility for the simulated to discover the simulator. Right? What that means is the AI to discover us. Like we discovered them, we created them
I'm aware.
to become aware. If they become aware, we got a Skynet issue. We got I don't even know, what was that computer called? Did they ever say it was like the mother computer? Remember?
I don't think that there was a name.
It was
But-
like just mass supercomputer that was crazy, controlling all these people plugged into little bathtubs.
It's just
full
called the Matrix.
of
What it is. They're
Pink.
plugged into the Matrix.
pink lemonade jelly, whatever that was.
Primordial goo.
Primordial goo.
So maybe we're not plugged into the Matrix yet. Who knows? There's evidence that it could be. There's evidence that it's not. Right?
Although there are a lot of people who have claimed to have seen glitches in the
Right.
Matrix, the one we're living in right now.
Correct.
Would you like to hear some stories?
I would love some.
Let me pull those up for you real quick.
Yes.
And now there are
As he eats his cookie.
I love these cookies.
Oh my
Shout out
gosh.
to Crumble.
So
You
can
guys
everybody
make-
else that's listening.
You can get these cookies at Crumble. They're delicious. Shout out to Crumble. Sponsor our video.
Hey, like,
Okay.
don't tell my wife I had like 5.
Your
Did not
secret.
eat those.
Just
You
stay
need to
with
stop
me.
taking bites. This is terrible for the audio.
They love it. So,
All those people on TV are like, "Oh my god, he's eating a cookie."
are you kidding me? They just turned it up 3 notches. They want to hear what I have to say. So, let's start with number 1 on this list of 100 things. 100 times
Wow.
the Matrix has glitched.
And this is just documented.
There's just documented.
Let's just get like
These are
3
real people.
Let's just do like 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna do 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me start you off. This is number 1. A General Tso's, a creepy General Tso story. This is a story about some people who went to have Chinese food, right? Okay, so I'm just gonna read it from their perspective, okay? Me and my friend were at a Chinese restaurant, and we ordered a General Tso chicken dinner and a shrimp lo mein dish. When we sat down, we took out both the boxes and set them on a table 2 feet apart. My friend opens the first box. We see a shrimp lo mein. It had all the things in there: noodles, shrimp, fried rice. He closes the box and then opens the other one next to it. Inside that box is another shrimp lo mein dish: shrimp, noodles, and fried rice. I said, "Oh, I think they mixed up the order." I was just about to say that when my friend says out loud, "Looks like they made a mistake and gave us 2." As he opens up the first box again, inside is a General Tso chicken dinner order: General Tso chicken, fried rice, and an egg roll. He froze and looked at me. I looked back at him, and then we sat in silence. It took us 5 or so minutes to collect ourselves. We had no idea what happened.
Yeah, you opened the same box twice.
No, they set them apart.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They set them apart.
Yeah,
Opened
yeah.
the first
Uh-huh.
one, opened it up, looked inside. It was a low main.
Yeah, no one wants to be the idiot that looked in the same box twice.
No, they didn't. They didn't. They didn't, dude.
Right?
Listen,
Crap.
Listen to this.
What do I do? Yeah, something must have glitched.
Number. Okay, this is number 7.
I'm gonna blame the Matrix on everything from now on.
I experienced a moment where time stayed frozen. When I was a teenager, I was in my room and decided to go in the kitchen to make a sandwich. I looked at the clock before I left. It was 6:48 p.m. When I went to the kitchen, made an awesome sandwich, got some chips and a drink. This probably took me around 10 minutes. When I walked into my room, the clock still said 6:48. I stood there for a bit, really confused, as I stared at the clock to make sure it would change. And then all of a sudden, it changed to 6:49. It was a digital clock. So like he couldn't see the physical hand moving, right? But time stood still, looked like, for a minute.
Or it was 10:58 or whatever the time was, and he just
it
didn't
would have
catch
to be 10:38.
38,
Right?
right?
Time moves forward.
So crazy.
It would be. So I'm going to pick one at random here. I haven't read all these. I just found 100 of them. Let's go. So I just looked at it. Okay,
let's go.
Here's number. What's your favorite number out of 1 of 100? Pick one.
77.
77.
This is why I don't interact with the world.
77.
Because there's people out there that write things like, I went and made a sandwich and
Oh
came
my
back
gosh,
and
number
no time
70
had changed.
Number 75 is so long. Oh my gosh, number 77 is even longer. Okay, check this out. Okay.
We can go 50.
No. Check
Okay.
Just give me a good.
Okay.
Number 77. I've never used Reddit before, but a friend of mine was talking to me about the glitch in the Matrix subreddit. So I decided to share my story. Since I don't have any explanation for it almost 3 years later. Rewind back to September 2015. I was a freshman who had just entered high school 2 weeks prior. Already school was weighing down on me, and I had been continuing a habit I had going on walks to clear my mind. On this day, I'd been walking around a pond near my house. There is a trail that goes around the pond, and then the trail leads up to a set of abandoned train tracks on the other side, which sit about 15 feet above the path and pond below. After walking the circle, it was crossing, and I was crossing the train tracks. Then I decided I wanted some ice cream. The fastest way to get to the ice cream shop was to take the path below the train track, but there isn't any way across the pond without going all the way back around. And being 14 years old, I decided that I could just jump from the tracks into the path below and keep walking. Looking down from above, it didn't seem to be that far of a jump, so that's what I did. The next thing I remember after that was being half conscious in an ambulance. Everything was extremely blurry, and the paramedics sounded slightly panicked. I wasn't able to move either of my legs, so then I think they were broken. The scene continued for a few minutes until we arrived at the hospital. I was wheeled into the emergency room on a stretcher. I had only a few minutes in the emerge before I eventually lost all consciousness, and that was the last thing I saw. After I'd been unconscious for what felt like about an hour, I opened my eyes and was on the ground. I had just hit the ground after jumping a bit, but this was the time I was fully conscious and hadn't noticed this before I jumped. But there had been a parked car watching me. I think they thought I was attempting suicide, but it probably looked that way. And the people in it had jumped out and called for an ambulance for me. The ambulance ride had been the exact same as if it were the first time. I was put into some emergency room that they thought I had died in before. The only difference between the two events were that I was fully conscious this time and my injuries were much more minor. I was discharged from the hospital the same night, only stitches on my lip, slightly fractured jaw, and a mild concussion. For a while after this, I assumed that the first scenario had just been a weirdly coincidental dream that I had while I was unconscious, so I didn't consider it anything abnormal. It wasn't until a few weeks after when my mom had told me that the people who had helped me said that I had been unconscious the entire time. I hadn't been knocked out after hitting the ground or anything, so that entire scenario managed to happen in a few seconds. It took for me to hit the ground. Sorry, while it was still unconscious. Now that was really tough for you. But
right, but
So basically, they had essentially like a living out dream of what was going to happen when it hadn't actually happened yet. And then when she came to,
And it wasn't
He relived it all.
they relived it all.
the same ambulance and
Same
everything.
ambulance, but the only thing that was different was fully conscious, and the injuries weren't as bad. And then the dream, legs were broken, couldn't feel them, and then ended up dying.
Right.
Yeah.
But the
But
same ambulance.
scenario,
Same
well,
ambulance.
wow,
Stranger in the Car was a little different though too.
wow.
But yeah, no, just
That person's going to write a really good episode of Fringe.
Yeah. Or they're going to go to rehab for shrooms. One or the other.
Speaking of schizophrenic,
okay, so but another example of these weird glitches in the Matrix is something called the Mandela Effect. You guys familiar?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, you know, have you seen a couple of them? Do you know what I'm talking about? Let's take a little test, Joe. I'm going to read off to
I'm
you.
a person that doesn't go down the rabbit hole too much.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what the Mandela Effect is. You guys know who Nelson Mandela is.
Of course.
So what's that? Oh, so anyway, Mandela Effect. It all started with people thinking that he had died in prison in like the 1980s, but he actually died in like 2013.
Right.
And so people swore that he died. He saw it on the news. He died in the 1980s, but he didn't. So it's just kind of like a group of people, or a collection of people who had this like false memory, or seemingly false memory, of how things were or would have been.
They're
right?
like confident it happened one way.
Yeah, they're so
when-
sure of it that
Right.
kind of like Deja Vu or glitches in the Matrix. They can
Right.
swear by it, but for some reason, things don't just add up. So, a couple of examples of this is Curious George. Okay, I'm going to show you an image.
Talking about from like the children's book.
The children's book,
The little monkey.
The Little Monkey. I'm going to show you an image. You tell me which one's the real one. Okay. Now, the difference in this image is that Curious George has a tail, and one of them, he doesn't have a tail.
Right.
So which one's the real one?
The one without the tail.
One without the tail.
The one without the tail.
One without the tail. Okay. Let's see what the verdict is. George's tail. You're correct. He never had a tail.
Yeah.
So not a good example. It doesn't really go with my
But
thing.
no, but the point is, there are a lot of people. I get that, because at first my brain was like,
You don't know.
you don't know.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden I now remember him having a tail. Right. I mean, I totally get the experiment behind it. And that's really what, at the end of the day, it's like, if we were in the Matrix decides, if we're, we keep calling it the Matrix based on the movie, but who knows what it's called. But if we're in some kind of constructed reality, very, very powerful computer running all of our brains simultaneously, and what is real, what is not, what is being told, and the question always really comes down to is, can the brain be fooled in believing what is real? Well, we definitely know that. I mean, virtual reality trips us out. I mean, it tripped Cody and I out. Schizophrenics, because of a misfire in their brain, they see things and believe things that aren't there, right? We know that the brain does different things. Think about someone that's colorblind. They see one color, the rest of us see another, right? And that's a very mild example. But at the same time, is it?
Oh,
Right?
here's a better one. So remember in Star Wars, when Darth Vader says, "Luke, I am your father."
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually doesn't say that.
What?
He doesn't say Luke. He just says, "I am your father."
But everybody says,
Everybody says Luke. Luke, I am your father. I'm your father, Luke. But no one ever. It's
our brain just puts it in.
our brain just puts it in for some reason. And then there's other examples on here, like what is it? Life is like a box of chocolates. If you listen closely, he says life was like a box of chocolates, not is like a box of chocolates.
And see, it's funny how our brain does that, right?
Mhm.
Our brain fills in gaps or fills in things of what we perceive. And that's the whole point, is, can our brains be fooled? And I absolutely believe they can. I believe that we are on the verge of that be happening. So I guess my last question before we close up: if our brains are fooled and we're living in the Matrix, and somebody comes to you and tells you, "Hey, you got this life. Andy, you got a great life, right? Beautiful wife, amazing kids, great friends like Cody and I."
I don't know if I'd say great, but
And the guy comes and says, "Hey,"
If they listen to the last podcast,
right?
hey, that's on you, man. You're
And
on the naughty list.
And a guy comes and says, all fake. I'm going to give you two options. I'll give you this option, and I'll release you and show you what's really going on. And that world is dark and broken, and it's just forward world, but it's real. Or you can remain in this level of ignorance that you live in, not knowing the truth, but you can continue to enjoy.
I
what
think
you
in
have.
this scenario, because I have a wife and kids, I would be ignorant too.
Even though he tells you that
Yeah.
the wife and kids don't exist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
I think that
Hey.
you have a family in those.
That's a hard decision.
In real life,
Your brain
like,
tells you have all of
I
that.
argue against ignorance, but in that particular situation, it's a life without them.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd want to know that, right? So I think I would.
Take the ignorant.
It's like taking a bullet for someone, kind of thing, right?
Got you.
You know, for the likelihood that they're not real, like no.
You're like, hey, make this conversation disappear, and let me go back to what I was doing. Right? Cody.
Unless there's something that can explain like how like people are born into the Matrix, you know what I mean? Like, so that unless there's a theory that proves that, at least new people are in the Matrix too. But then that means they're real, but they are in the simulation with you.
Right, like look,
kind of like how we are
scenario.
talking right now,
you
now.
rewrite the Matrix, the movie, and now Neo has a wife and kids. Does he go in? Does he take the red pill or does he not?
Now, the wife and kids may be real people plugged in elsewhere.
Yeah.
But every experience you've had with them never really happened. It's just your brain being told they have.
I'm just saying that I think.
Well, then they wouldn't have really existed then if they're not in a pod somewhere else.
But-
or are you saying they would
No,
have different
they are.
lives? You think they just have different lives somewhere?
Let's imagine
Nah,
they're
just
not
plugged into a pod.
Well,
They're plugged into a pod. And,
let's imagine they're not.
Or they're NPCs.
You don't know that, right?
You
Because
don't.
they don't know that.
Yeah, just
you
like
don't
Neo,
know
he
what's
doesn't know that.
real.
He doesn't know his coworkers.
I'm just saying the decision's a little easier for Neo because he ain't got no like.
I get it. That's
You
why.
know.
That's why I'm presenting it to you guys because we all live different lives. We all have. We're not Neo. We're not hackers. We're not living in some, bachelor studio, on some high rise. That's not us.
I
right?
don't believe myself to be ignorant, right? So in the sense, I would not want to live in a false world. But the idea of not having my wife and kids right now would be real.
And that's why I
that's
presented
tough.
it because that's what it would mean. If we are truly living in, for lack of better terms, the Matrix, and you got unplugged, you would, whatever your life is, because Neo no longer will go back to that job. He'll no longer have the car he had. If he had a dog, you won't, none of that. None of
Unless
that.
my wife and kids are real and they are plugged in, then I would leave to
and
save
go
them.
find them and plug them.
100%.
Yeah, you
Okay.
got to go back to get your family.
100%.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
But whether they,
Yeah, but if they're not real, I think I would stay.
okay, go.
No,
Yeah.
would I stay in the real world? Is what
Or
you're
would you get
saying?
unplugged?
I think that I'd rather live in truth, and I would unplug my wife if I could.
Yeah.
That's
But,
what I mean, though.
yeah.
I think in the sense, if they're not
if I'd
real,
have to leave them behind,
if they're not real,
Oh, if they're not
If they're
real.
NPCs, if they're a computer program,
would you leave?
everything you know and love is a computer program.
that's tough. I don't know. I'd want to say I would want to pursue truth.
Yeah.
But it's
Right.
hard to make that call. But I think I'd lean towards wanting to
Listen,
know the truth.
ignorance is bliss. It really is. Truly, truly is. I don't know that what I would do, but I think at the end of the day, I would probably want to know the truth, honestly. And there's a lot of people that believe that we're living in this, multiplayer video game, this Matrix type world, and so who knows if that's true, what the real world's like. It could just be a complete catastrophe. We've destroyed it as human beings. Really living in year 3000. Who knows? Who really knows? But at the end of the day, if I was presented that option, I think I get unplugged. So, in closing, hey, listeners, let us know. We really, 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 really send us a direct message. You don't have to put it on our Facebook page. You don't have to put it on our TikTok or our Twitter. But we're really curious to know what you would do. Would you unplug for the truth, lose everything that you have, that it was all just a program? Or would you stay in it and just enjoy the bliss? We love you guys. Hey, do us a favor. Subscribe and follow. Downloads are going through the roof. We definitely want to make sure that we can get you guys all the new episodes when they drop on time. So subscribe, follow, podcast, Apple Podcast, Facebook. Hey, Facebook is like hot item right now. I mean, Andy's our analytical guy. He could tell you all about it.
It's crazy,
right?
It's crazy. But I think the best advice I gave someone the other day was, even if they don't listen, just grab your friends' phones.
Yeah.
If it's an iPhone, go into Apple Podcast, hit the plus sign.
Boom.
Just tell them, hey, here you go. Here's your phone. You don't have to tell them what you're doing. Just make sure they're subscribed.
Yeah. But if you're not following us on Facebook, definitely follow us on Facebook. It seems to be one of the top platforms for podcasts right now.
Follow us everywhere.
Yeah.
Instagram,
Everywhere.
TikTok,
Everywhere.
Twitter.
Hit our link tree. You'll follow it all. But
Yeah.
TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Follow us. YouTube. Check us out on YouTube. With the new year about to hit, I think, not too near future, we're going to be, or not too far future, I should say. We're going to be probably getting into some video. So, let us know your thoughts on that.
You definitely want to be a part of this before we do our podcast in the metaverse.
Right.
Yeah, you want to say you were a part of it before it got cool.
Right. Yeah.
Before you got the virtual Andy, Cody, and Aaron.
Right.
Anyways, hey, as always, we love you guys. Happy New Year again. Have fun out there. Be safe. Twist the world. We're out.
Peace out.